What is going on, everybody? Nazdarachi coming back at you again with 5-9 Gaming's coverage of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We will be diving deep into episode 3, which is titled The Power Broker. So, of course, there will be spoilers. Hopefully, you've already seen the episode before checking this out, because we pretty much have been only doing spoiler reviews of this show. In the spirit of that, I am also joined again today by Azdeek, Little Bobby, and Waffles. Why don't all of y'all go ahead and say hello in the order, alphabetical order.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
I was hoping we could do it all at once, make it chaotic.
Well, it went pretty smoothly there, which is a great descriptor, in my opinion, for how this series is playing out. Again, I just have to stress the fact that it's been extremely linear comparative to any of the mind puzzle games that we've had in the previous series, the WandaVision, but I've been quite enjoying it. The pacing is much more on par with an action series. So, diving into the first part of the first episode, of course, the episode starts off with actually something that is kind of like a memory trigger from WandaVision. It starts off with like a commercial for the organization that is, I guess, kind of like the UN, if you will, where they kind of like have outposts in different nations and regions, and they stockpile resources, and they have soldiers, and they help distribute the resources. But we see that whole commercial play out, as you can see in the frames behind me, basically talking about, oh, we realized how difficult the blip was, essentially, where everyone was gone and then they came back to life, essentially, and how to integrate people back into society and navigate the borders, the changing of the guard, if you will, how things are just different now. Is there anything you guys would like to bring up about this commercial? Because there wasn't too much, I noticed, other than it segues right into the, the U.S. agent new cap sequence. But I guess, Azdeek, what do you feel about this intro right here? This kind of callback to the WandaVision with like a commercial in the show.
It kind of threw me off, especially in this kind of show. Like, it was just a little bit odd for me to see this. I kind of just didn't know what was going on at first, but I quickly understood as soon as it segued into the next scene when we do see John Walker, and it's like this bright, like hopeful, like organization, and then you have John Walker just storming into this place, just kind of pissed and in like a darker setting.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you when you said it kind of felt out of place, but I guess it's just doing a little bit of foreshadowing for this organization, the Global Repatriation Council, which I guess, again, just helps reintegrate all of the people, I guess everybody. It's not just the people that were gone, because they have to reintegrate with all the people that didn't get vanished, snapped away. So it's, I guess, trying to get everyone to cooperate again. And, Little Bobby, I guess, moving right forward, since the commercial didn't do much but to set up this organization, what is your take on the whole Captain America raiding this depot here, trying to get more information on the whereabouts of the Super Soldier Serum's origin? Like, what are your general thoughts on this? Kind of shows a little bit more of his character. So what's your take on the new Cap in this situation?
Yeah, I think we're seeing the big difference between John Walker and Steve Rogers, right? In that opening scene with the raid from the new Captain America. He's very aggressive, very no BS, like, not in a mood to try and work with anybody. He just wants his answers then and there. What he wants exactly what he needs right there. He's not willing to be diplomatic, which kind of calls back to the second episode, right, where they had that opening of him, and his buddy saying, hey, you got to be more diplomatic now. We're seeing that he's not taking to that part of the role. I think is a big part of what that's meant to establish. And I thought it was good to really show us more of who John Walker is, compared to Steve Rogers, right? He's not living up to Captain America as much as one might hope.
Yeah, you could tell that he almost could barely keep it together when the dude spit in his face. Like, he looked really, really angry, like he was about to just open a can on that guy. Not
just
even caring
end
about
him. end him,
Yeah,
right?
the moral ramifications. He's very much so a person. He even kind of says it like, as long as we complete the mission, do you think they're really going to care about how we did it?
Exactly.
And I think that goes perfectly in line with what little Bobby just said, how he is, not quite the Captain America that Steve Rogers was. Or at least he kind of is starting to crack under pressure because they basically have no leads and they don't really know where to look next. I'm assuming they're going to basically turn to Falcon and the Winter Soldier again, and that's going to lead to another point of conflict between them.
Yep.
And that's something we can even bring up later on in the episode because they basically almost automatically suspect Falcon and Bucky of another act that we're going to get into soon here in the show. But that basically segues us into the next sequence where I guess you could say that because of Bucky's extensive history with Zemo, they felt like it would be a good idea to go interrogate him. Maybe they could find the source of, what's going on with the super soldier serum based off of some of Zemo's contacts. Waffles, what do you think about their initial plan of action getting in here? And were you immediately aware or were you caught off guard by what Bucky's ultimate plan was for this situation?
I think ultimately I was a little caught off guard, I'll be honest. Like, I didn't expect it, but I was really interested in it when he starts going into the, let me run a hypothetical by you, and then it shows like clips of Zemo breaking out, and I'm like, oh, okay, so Bucky helped him break out. Got it. So it's just he's trying to subtly tell him before Zemo walks in the door, and then you can see like Sam just getting all pissed about it. It was good. I enjoyed it. I think though, going in and just talking to him on his own, I was a little bit worried because especially that initial interaction where he's trying to activate the Winter Soldier again was a part where I got a little bit worried, like, oh, maybe Bucky's gonna turn, but then he doesn't. So I think it still works out all good and fine, but it was really interesting.
Yeah, you could tell that the deprogramming definitely worked on him, but again, he's still very emotional about certain things, so he's quick to get angry, that's for sure. But I think it was very telling about how Bucky was initially convincing Sam, like, let me go in alone. And then, it basically devolved very quickly into like a prison heist. Like Waffles had already mentioned, they kind of just have a little bit of a conversation, but it doesn't really allude to what's happening. And then it just cuts to basically a black screen and, they're back in the warehouse, and then like that whole conversation about a hypothetical kicks in. I guess Azdeek and Little Bobby, do you have anything else you wanted to mention about the prison break scene here? I mean, the only other thing that I'd like to mention is throughout this episode, we're getting some very heavy, like almost R-rated vibes going on with the cursing and the level of brutality. But take the floor if you want to talk about the whole prison break and interrogation sequence anymore.
Honestly, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I really liked when they were having the hypothetical conversation, and then Zemo shows up at the end, right? Because the whole thing to me felt almost like an Edgar Wright, those little mini montages that he put in things like Shaun of the Dead and Scott Pilgrim, where it's just like listing off little things, and then you see the quick cuts in between everything. Mixed with like an Ocean's 11 kind of feel to it as well, because they had the comedy of him listing off and saying, what if hypothetically I was able to do this? Zemo shows up at the end and they both like start yelling at him, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. It was all really lighthearted, but at the same time, very tight and like you said, some of it was pretty brutal, which was really kind of surprising for Marvel, and especially something on Disney Plus that's so widely accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm very much liking that. And before you take the floor for your final thoughts on the prison break, on screen right now, we do have confirmation about something we discussed off screen. Bucky directly is talking to Sam. He says, we also have 8 super soldiers that are loose. So going based off that and the 20 vials we know were stolen, that means that there are still 12 in circulation in some form. So we'll have to circle back around to that later. I just wanted to throw that out there because we were curious about that earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, Azdeek, what are your thoughts on the prison break and them getting Zemo out of jail here?
Well, honestly, I'm gonna have to be 100% transparent with you guys. I have to go ahead and give myself a pat on the back because I think last time we were doing this, I kind of predicted, or not predicted, but I was kind of just like inferring that they're gonna have like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing, and hopefully like they would have a part in breaking Zemo out of prison. Sam didn't really have a part in it, but Bucky was really quick to go ahead and just be like, hey, we need this man. Like, we just, we gotta suck it up. We need him. And it kind of goes to show that both sides are desperate for leads. Like, Sam and Bucky are desperate for leads, and you can also see that our new Captain America alongside Battlestar are also desperate for those leads.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's going to lead full circle to basically them coming into another confrontation as well. And maybe some other parties will be involved, like we saw at the very, very little end stinger at the end of the episode here. But so we basically know that they do break Zemo out of jail. He basically does a little switcheroo, dresses up like a police officer, and he's able to sneak out and meet back up with the dynamic duo here. And this actually provides for a very interesting dynamic for the rest of the episode. This is our first example here, of which I'm sure we're going to get to more when it comes back to, U.S. Agent, again, John Walker. But it's really showing that the heroes here are, hero is almost kind of like a gray area term now. It's like the good guys working with the bad guys to defeat the enemy of my enemy is my friend, basically, to sum it all up. But it just shows what lengths, Avengers, the heroes are willing to go working with villains to, get their end means met, right?
Yeah.
So did y'all, as well, before we move on, do you have anything you'd like to say about that, about the, the nature of heroes and, how this might affect, compared to when the Avengers movie first came out and now full circle, here we are. Like, I don't know, it's definitely a profound difference.
I think there's part of that I want to talk about once we get into the airplane conversation, but not quite.
Yeah, we're actually, pretty much there, because after the jailbreak, it cuts to the title card for, the whole series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then we immediately get Zemo rifling through, I don't even know how they got to where they are. I guess Zemo told Falcon and Winter Soldier to meet him here, but he's basically going through a bunch of his old cars, getting, there's guns, there's money, there's passports, I'm assuming, and of course his iconic mask. And he basically grabs all of that and kind of illustrates the fact that Sam is like, what are you've been in jail this whole time, but you rich? And he illustrates, he basically name drops himself. He was like, I was a baron, before I was in jail, this is the type of life I lived, before Hydra and all that. So they basically hop on a plane. And this kind of sets the narrative for a lot of things that happen in the episode. There's one critique I might kind of throw out there that's not necessarily wholly positive, but I understand, it's a TV series, there's a lot to get done, but the pace of this episode is breakneck. Like, they're on a plane, they're looking for one person, and they're looking for someone else. They're on a plane, they're in a car, they're going here, they're going there. It's very, very fast-paced, and not everything gets room to breathe, but I am quite happy with the backstory that we get on Zemo. They really flesh him out compared to, what we know of him from Civil War. So Waffles, now be a great opportunity, since we're in the plane now. What are your thoughts on Zemo here and his possible interactions with Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Oh, well, I think Zemo adds an interesting dynamic to the duo before, where now you've got someone who is unpredictable, but also predictable in a way, where like, he's an unpredictable element where you don't know exactly what he's gonna do, but you also know what his end motive is. So he wants no more super soldiers. He's gonna kill anything that comes in his way. He's gonna take the role of a villain, but he's just here to get to his end goal. But the thing I actually want to talk about was that while they're on this airplane, this is one of the few moments that actually does have a little bit of time to breathe, where they're talking about the old Captain America identity and how we put those kind of heroes on a pedestal, and that's kind of, we don't see their flaws. And I think that kind of introduces a kind of a theme throughout a lot of this series so far, has been identity and how it's shown, how we understand it as a society. And I think just seeing how everyone grapples with the Captain America identity, as well as just heroes in general. You can see the Falcon identity, Bucky's Winter Soldier identity, even Zemo with his mask. Like, you can see him going a little bit back and forth throughout the episode. And I just thought that was a really cool moment, and it was something that was really notable for me.
Yeah, he has a very long discussion which basically solidifies his opinions on, superheroes, where he's like, they get put on pedestals, people forget about their flaws, and then, everything just goes status quo, and, atrocities basically get ignored for the greater good. I really like that. He also seems to have sneakily snatched up the Winter Soldier's, I guess you could say Captain America's, then taken by the Winter Soldier's little red book with all the names in it. What do you think about that, Asdi? Because he's kind of thumbing through it, questions him about the elderly Asian father, and then Winter Soldier kind of blows up a little bit. Do you think he's kind of testing Winter Soldier to see, what his limits are and, how much he's actually been deprogrammed? Or what are your thoughts on that little book sequence where he's like, never touch that again?
Yeah, 100%. I think he's just trying to get in his head, right? Because immediately on their first interaction, he's reciting him the codes and stuff like that. And Bucky immediately tells him, that won't work on me. And he's like, I know. I just want to see your reaction. It feels like he's kind of just, he wants to get in his head and stuff like that and kind of just, how he's already like a master manipulator, so he can already he's like reading him at this point, because he's just like, okay, I see, these are the people that you've wronged as the Winter Soldier. And he kind of just gathered that, without Bucky even telling him, just by like kind of just at a glance,
Yeah, I definitely think Zemo is like genius, like maybe even beyond genius level. And although on the surface level, the destruction of super soldiers might be like how he played Bucky and Sam to get out of jail, I think he's going to have a lot more motivation than just that. I think, he's going to try and make a come up, but we kind of get the inclination that maybe his influence has fallen off a little bit, or, at least even Baron Zemo here, he's got, people that, he might butt heads with, because they talk about how, well, I guess we can cut to the Carly and the dying kid first. So basically they're going to a place that resembles Singapore in this flight to look for some more people. I think it's called Madripoor. Like it's if I'm not mistaken,
Madripoor.
Right? Madripoor. Okay,
Yeah.
So yeah, just basically like Singapore, but you change the beginning, the prefix of the word. But before we do get there, it does cut back to the Flag Smashers, of which we knew there were 8. At least one of them died trying to stall the Power Brokers men from capturing the rest of them in the last episode of that little airstrip. But we see them basically talking. It kind of fleshes them out a little bit. Kind of sets her up as someone who really cares about... I don't know. It's hard to tell who she cares about, because their whole motivation at first was getting the world back to the way it was before the blip, because all of the corrupt people in power were basically gone and things were more decentralized, right? But I don't know, this kind of sets her up to, it's very conflicting, because it shows that she has a very humanitarian side, but the lengths that she's willing to go through in terms of killing people on the other side, I don't know, it gets a very Thanos-y vibe, right? Where there's a balance and people will need to die. Like, what are your thoughts on that, Asdeek, with this little sequence that tries to develop Carly a little bit here?
Well, honestly, I think you just like hit it like right on the head. Like, you can kind of tell, like, they want you to kind of like sympathize with her, right? Like, they want to show you the side of her that's like, this is why she started this cause, because she does have that, just look at her face. Like, she cares for these people. Like, it's already been revealed that when she stole not only did she steal the super soldier serum, but she's also like getting medicine. You can even see in the beginning where John Walker is raiding that group of people. They're kind of loyal to her, and Battlestar even notes that, like, yeah, you're not going to be able to get through these people when this girl is like bringing them medicine, is helping them out. Like, that stuff breeds that loyalty. You're not going to get through.
Yeah, and he basically even says, like, she's out here giving people homes and shelter and medicine. Like, how bad could she really be?
Exactly.
But we find out later in the episode that, that hospitality comes at a very large price. But immediately after that little sequence, we do cut back to Madripoor, which again looks almost identical to Singapore. You have all the boats out in the bay and the, highly lit up neon skyscraper backdrop. And we get establishment from Baron Zemo himself that there's like a low town, a high town, implying that I guess low town is going to be an area where there's a lot of like low level crime, thugs and gang kind of related stuff. And I guess high town is where the more like white collar crime would be, the richer criminals, if you will. But they're all going in disguise to try and meet up with someone who has more information about where the super soldier serum is coming from. So we have, of course, Baron Zemo playing himself, the Winter Soldier playing the previous version of himself when he was still a puppet of Zemo. And then we have the Smiling Tiger being played by Sam Wilson here, who I guess is just some high-profile criminal. They even have a funny dialogue about how he's saying, why do I gotta be the one dressed as a pimp? And then they show the dude, and he's like actually like an African, I guess crime mogul or businessman or something. We don't get too much backstory on him. But what, Little Bobby, are your opinions or thoughts on this whole introduction of the Madripoor, the high town, the low town, and their incognito disguises as they roll up into this bar? Like, kind of action movie tropey, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was very action movie tropey, and I think that's what they're going for, right? They're setting this up like a kind of a spy thriller, right? And I really love the aesthetic of Madripoor, like the low town section they were in. Just immediately reminded me of like Cyberpunk 2077, all that artwork that you see, the city at night, like all the neon lights, and everything's kind of a little dirty, but it looks really flashy. And then the introduction of them as their characters, right? Them mentioning that Bucky like kind of slipped back into the Winter Soldier thing really easy, and Sam in his outrageous suit, which was very, very stylish, glorious, if I do say so myself. I loved it.
Yeah, and then the dude behind the bar is like, you want your regular drink? And of course Zemo has told him a million times they gotta stay in character, so he has to drink like the heart of a rattlesnake or something like that. I don't even know, but it was quite the entertaining exchange. At which point it's revealed that I guess the power broker and Baron Zemo aren't really on the greatest terms. He's told that he isn't welcome here. And then he basically announces he hasn't come to cause problems for the power broker. He just wants to talk to Selby about, their personal business. And it feels like this fight is somewhat unnecessary, but I loved watching every bit of it. Waffles, what was your take on this basically this staged fight where people come to attack him anyway? And I guess it's just to challenge Zemo to see if he's still all that, and he just immediately sicks the Winter Soldier on them. What are your thoughts on this beautiful fight scene right here?
The way I saw it was actually a little bit different. I saw it as like he wasn't welcome there and he was about to be kicked out, but then he just has the Winter Soldier he has him just trying to dominate, just show that, hey, yeah, you're not gonna be able to kick me out here unless you really pull up. And so he's like, all right, you can get your meeting now. It's like, okay, we're not going to be able to get you out of here without causing a lot of trouble. So sure, we'll let you into the meeting. But like, overall, I think it was a pretty brutal fight. Not as brutal as one that we see a little bit later, but I think it was still really good.
Yeah, again, it really sets the theme that this is not really a show meant for kids. Like, it's obviously not like Deadpool levels of violence, but, I would almost say that it's, like halfway there, comparatively speaking, because we see a lot of blood, a lot of very large knives, a lot of stabbings and shootings in this episode alone.
Yeah.
But from there, I guess it takes us right from the bar into the back room where we meet Selby, who I guess is just a lower level general under the power broker. Again, they're still in character. What is your take, Azdeek, on this whole sequence where they're trying to barter for information? I guess Winter Soldier is offered up as a bargaining chip, and then the phone call with Smiling Tiger. Run us through that and what your take is on this sequence.
This one, it felt a little, to me, it felt like a little out of place again, but, you know, they did want to add, like, that comedic factor to it. You know, Sam's sister ends up calling him and basically just really just, like, put him in the dirt by calling him Sam, right? And then it's just, everything kind of just goes to, you know, it just goes to heck from there. But it felt a little funny to me because just how it went down and stuff. It felt like Sam was the only one that was really struggling to get into that character, while Zemo and the Winter Soldier were kind of just very, very like just playing along with it. Another thing I wanted to note too was just that you can definitely tell that like the Power Broker really has like a handle like on Madripoor, right? Like over all of it. There was a frame that you actually went over where there was like a little mural on the wall, and it said the Power Broker is watching. So I think it's very interesting to see like how we get to see like the lower member of that like status and stuff like that, and how it's going to basically affect the overall series. Because at this point, I'm very like, I feel confident that Power Broker is going to be the big bad.
Yeah, or a combination of Power Broker and Zemo with infighting between Cap, Battlestar, Sam, and Bucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that could be, you know, it could go real hectic. I mean, I feel like episode 5 is where a lot of it's going to go down. And then episode 6, hopefully the good guys come together to face, you know, the true villain. That's kind of my far-reaching, it's not that far, though, 'cause there's only 3 weeks left. But that's my prediction, kind of my general prediction. But essentially, like Asdik just mentioned, the phone call basically exposes Sam as not being Smiling Tiger because his sister calls him Sam, and it kind of blows their spot. And turns out Sharon Carter from S.H.I.E.L.D., who has been hiding out here. You know, she was, I guess, the replacement for Maria Hill, I believe, earlier on in S.H.I.E.L.D. before they collapsed. And she's been hiding out here and takes a sniper shot through the window and just takes out Selby. And comes to kind of save the day. Little Bobby, what was your reaction to seeing her again? I was not really expecting that, and I'm thinking that was the surprise kind of cameo that they teased a little bit on social media ahead of time. Because I did see a post that was like, expect to see a face you haven't seen in a little bit, and boom, it turns out to be her. So what were your thoughts on her coming to save the day and her new life after the snap and blip?
I think it was good. You know, Sharon Carter is kind of a big deal in the overall Marvel universe. Even though she's not in a ton of the MCU stuff, she still played a pretty important role in the movies she's been in. So seeing her come back and kind of seeing the fallout from all the stuff she's had to do to help out the Avengers over the years was pretty cool, but it's also kind of dark, you know. So we end up seeing that she's very upset with like the government, you know, because they basically exiled her. She's living in Madripoor now, and so her stuff is taking kind of a dark turn, and it's certainly a different Sharon than we've seen.
Yeah, it basically takes us back to her house right after this, and she's setting up a party with art dealers, and it turns out that after the snap and blip, a lot of very expensive pieces of art were illegitimately acquired, and she's kind of basically running the black market on, you know, expensive artifacts and historical stuff like that. And it's very interesting because they basically set up this whole point where she's going to try and find out where the doctor is. So I guess in the Selby scene, before she gets sniped, conveniently enough, she name drops the doctor that we need to find to progress the story. And then she gets killed, you know, before, you know, anything inconvenient happens. So that played out perfectly. But they don't know where he is. So she's going to ask around at this party. And this is one thing, again, that I would kind of criticize the episode a little bit on. It's kind of cool how many different sets there are. Like, we go from location to location a bunch of different times in this episode. But this is one of the things that kind of moves a little bit quick for me. Because they're like, you know, they immediately, Selby is like, oh, here's the doctor. And the next scene, they're at the party. And she's like, I'll try and find him. And then like the next scene right after that, like, oh, I found him. So Waffles, what is your kind of take on the whole art dealer, criminal mastermind that Sharon's become here, and that whole party sequence where she kind of finds out, you know, their next mission objective, just basically with not too much on-screen effort?
Yeah, I would say as far as her overall direction now, with her being kind of the art dealer and everything, is I think it adds a lot more interesting factors to her character. I think before she was kind of a little bit boring, just a shield agent watching over Cap and things like that. And yeah, I mean, that's fine, but I think this is much more interesting than what we've seen before. As far as the actual party sequence and being able to find the doctor quickly, I do actually agree with you on this one. To an extent, I'm okay with them moving quickly through a lot of the different locations, but I think this one, it would have been nice to have a little bit more room. Maybe we go to US agent, or we go to maybe Carly's section before we come back to this, because it did feel like it was a little bit too quick.
Yeah, I will kind of agree with that, because I don't know, basically she sees Zemo and she's like, oh, okay, I figured, you know something was up, but I'm a criminal now too, so it doesn't really matter. And she basically advises them to like stay out of it. No mention of the power broker from her specifically, because either she doesn't know where he is, or I don't know, she doesn't want to cross him necessarily. But I guess from there it kind of just cuts into like a rave sequence where she's having a party and selling all of the art and doing whatever she needs to do. This is basically where she picks up the information that they need, which then takes them straight to the shipping container where the doctor is hidden. So Azdeek, why don't you run us through this discovery of the doctor here? I guess Sharon is outside providing cover, and what's your take on this whole explanation about the super soldier serum and the revelation that there were 20 doses out there?
Okay, yeah, so this was actually pretty crazy to hear, because so in the last episode, we actually got the introduction of the Bradleys, right? We got Isaiah Bradley, and we got his nephew, which was Eli Bradley, who he plays a big part in the New Avengers, right? But so this guy, basically, the way he ties into him is because he was one of the main scientists that worked on the Bradleys. Or not the Bradleys, I'm sorry, just Isaiah Bradley. And so he basically said that he went and he recreated the super soldier serum, but he made it in his own fashion, right? He made it so you're going to get all the super soldierness, you're not going to get all the bulk with it, you're going to, and he's basically saying that he got blipped and all his work was just gone when he came back. He came back after the 5 years, and all his research and stuff, like his whole project was just kind of like, well, it was dusted. And so he came over here to work for the power broker, because the power broker happily went ahead and hired him and said, okay, like, let me get some of this serum, I want to go ahead and monopolize this. I want to sell it. You can obviously tell over here in Madripoor that he is definitely, like, he's the head honcho. He's the big bad guy over here. And so this guy is definitely under his employment, and they get all the information, like how you said, he lets them know that there's 20 vials out there of the super soldier serum. And, we go more into it, and we can basically tell from this is that Zemo isn't having any of it. He hears that, and he probably just got triggered, and, no pun intended.
Yeah, because he basically just blows him away. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, little Bobby? I mean, I know we had discussed a little bit of the Doctor's relevance in the comics versus the actual series here. I mean, it's pretty much consistent, although the people that he's working for, shuffled up to kind of fall in line with the series. But did you have anything about that you'd like to add about, Zemo? Do you think he killed the Doctor specifically because he hates super soldiers, or do you think it's more of a kind of a power play to even the assets between Zemo and the power broker? What do you think all is going on with his motivations here in this scene?
I think that Waffles kind of hit the nail on the head earlier. That I think it was Waffles who mentioned that Zemo is going to find a way to achieve his goal, and his goal is no more superhumans, right? Which makes me think he's gonna try and do something to Bucky by the end, right? But here we see that him taking out the Doctor is his way of going, okay, there will be no more. right? If we eliminate the guy who knows how to do this, no more of this is happening. We know that at least, right? So I think more than anything, it was, they didn't necessarily want him to take the doctor out, but Zemo saw that as a way to meet that goal, right? It's a means to an end for him. So.
And meanwhile, Sharon's outside literally kicking people's asses left and right and throwing knives through their arms and stabbing them and shooting them. But,
it was great. It was great.
Yeah, I love that whole action sequence where she's out there just basically being Rambo. What do you think about the Power Broker? Do you think that his abilities in this TV show will be somewhat consistent with him in the comics, where he can just give people powers and that's his power? Or do you think it's going to be much more tied to like science and more real world stuff like in the show, where maybe he just exploits people like this doctor and other scientists, and that's how he kind of gives people power and stuff? Do you think it's going to be, again, like more mystical in nature or more scientific when they finally introduce him? Kind of call this a prediction for future episodes, if you will.
I would say we're definitely going to see in the MCU, it's going to be science-based. Because even with like, the Asgardians and stuff like that, they always say like, well, you guys call it magic, or you guys call it science, we call it magic, right? It's just that their science is so much more advanced than human science that we can't even comprehend it, right? Like the Bifrost and stuff like that. But then we kind of see, Doctor Strange has the magic, but could that be science? It's a whole thing. But for the most part in the MCU, I feel like everything is almost always like tried to give a quote unquote like a reasonable explanation on how things work. So I definitely foresee them making it that he's gonna be someone who uses science to create like superhumans.
I agree. I also think that, a good example of like basically what you portrayed right there was, you got Falcon and then you got Red Wing, and Red Wing isn't an actual Falcon in the MCU, right? He's just a piece of tech.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't actually stop it on the frame where the dude gets shot. Like, it literally doesn't exist. It either goes to 24 or 26. I can't stop it on the actual frame where he gets shot.
Maybe we imagined
So that's
it.
interesting. Yeah, right? Well, you can see on that frame, he's definitely dead after the fact. So, yep, the Baron Zemo did shoot him, deliver a fatal blow to end the, at least that we know of, the development of the super soldier serum, minus the, 18 vials, or 12 vials that are still out there. Those were identified as being stolen by Carly. So we know that they still have them. They actually get word that this doctor's been killed, and they feel like they could use that to their advantage in dealing with the Power Broker, because they know the Power Broker's chasing them. But in the meantime, right after this sequence, basically Sharon comes in, is like, yo, the whole city's after us, we gotta get out of here. Some guy outside shoots an RPG at the shipping container and basically blows up the whole lab. And we get a kind of an awkward sequence where Sharon basically parts ways with Zemo, and she parts ways with Falcon and Bucky as well. And she's basically like, try and get me that pardon, because that was the agreement between Sam and Sharon, that Sam would try and get her pardoned for her helping them. But it's kind of awkward. Sharon's sitting there talking to her chauffeur, like, we got big problems, we gotta go. One of y'all, and I forget whoever it was to speak up, I don't know if it was Waffles or Azdik or Bobby, but one of y'all almost suggested, like, yo, what if Sharon is the Power Broker? And what are y'all's takes on that now that we're on camera? Do you
Oh yeah, that was me. I'm gonna own that because I'm the crazy theory guy. So like, I said Sharon is the art broker because you guys said, hey, she's like an art broker now. I said, but what if she's the Power Broker, right? And it seems to me it could be a thing that happens, only because Sharon seems to know everything's going on. Like, how did she know they were in the meeting with Selby? To kind of save him from,
Oh, she was in the bar.
Oh, she was in the bar.
Yeah, do we see her
Yeah,
pull her hood up?
Yeah, she pulls her hood up and
okay,
goes
that was-
outside, and then gets a little sniper vantage point to take out Selby from the other side.
You know,
Okay, well now you just shot a hole in my whole reasoning here, guys.
Well, it's still like
It's
a
still
decent theory.
possible.
I think it could be possible.
yeah, you definitely.
I would
Shot
love
it.
it personally.
I mean, before today, I never thought it would be possible to see the Winter Soldier throw a pipe at some guy and impale him on Disney Plus, but that happened. So
Yeah.
Well, that's what the plus is. It's the impalement.
hmm
I want to add to that crazy theory too and say that how her weapon of choice right there was the sniper, and there was that mural that the power broker sees all is watching, right? And she was like the watcher right there.
Yeah, and I would also add as
Yeah.
well
Overwatch.
that why was she in the bar? She lives in a high town,
Mm-hmm.
and like, she
that's
definitely
true.
has some sort of ulterior motives. But I don't know if it'll end up being her being the power broker. But I think she's definitely got something up her sleeve.
She's sus for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, since I'm fumbling around here in the frames, what were you guys' thoughts on Zemo's reveal of him actually wearing the purple mask, blowing stuff up? Do you think he has any super soldier serum either? Because he was flipping around and doing all sorts of stuff there. Do you think that was just the normal things that barons of small European countries can do? Like,
the barons of Eastern Europe and their wonderful training. To me, I don't think he has any super soldier serum. I just think before we didn't get to see any of this because he was kind of trying to be in the shadows, and he knew he's not taking on Iron Man and Captain America. You know what I mean? He knows he's not going to win that fight, at least not that physical fight. He's probably well trained, being nobility, but super soldier serum, I don't think so for Zemo, especially considering he has such a negative view on superhumans, right? Superheroes. And
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. I think like ultimately, I think this was just interesting choreography. I don't see it as anything more than that. Although I've never been a Baron, so I don't know.
It felt like fan service a little bit. People wanted to see him in the mask. People wanted to see him do some badass stuff.
yeah, I agree with that.
yeah, I will commend them for them moving into these series on Disney Plus. WandaVision, they gave Scarlet Witch a really great comics accurate costume. Now Baron, he looks really clean and comics accurate as well. Like I really like that. I will say that.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, we do see this weird encounter where it seems like Sharon could know more or have more to her hand than what she's revealed to the the main cast here. But after that, it basically cuts to one of the final two sequences here where my mouse died. But it cuts to one of the final two sequences where we have Carly again, and they're planning this raid on the GRC building, obviously because they need even more supplies and medicine. And this really just kind of furthers the tone of the divide between her good and evil characteristics, I guess you could say, because there's all this character development with her outside with the other Flag Smasher, them talking about life and what's important to them and what they have to do, and did they ever think they'd see themselves in this position. So it's very clearly establishing their humanity, but what are you guys' thoughts on this whole raid and their means of going about it here? I mean, there are definitely probably other ways they could get support, but they just decided to use the super soldier serum and take what they need and kind of be like Robin Hood, I guess, if you will. But feel free, anyone, just grab the floor. I think is it Azdeek's turn next up in rotation, or I forget now.
Yeah, I have no clue. Well, all I have to pretty much say about it is that, yeah, it's exactly how you're saying, is that they basically kind of have like that little Robin Hood approach where they're just like, they went ahead and they took the super soldier serum for themselves, for their group. They gave themselves that leverage on everyone else to go ahead and just be like, okay, well, we can't you guys aren't helping us, you guys aren't helping the refugees, then we're going to go ahead and just take what we need for ourselves. You guys don't care about us, so we're going to be the ones who go ahead and take care of us ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really too much to add there. That part is pretty linear. Like they've pretty well written her character, where we know that she's trying to help people, but she does really heinous things in the process. But I guess right from there, it cuts. Waffles, you can cover this quickly. It cuts back to Battlestar and John Walker as they basically assume, or at least John Walker does, that Sam and Bucky are responsible for breaking out Zemo. What do you think they're gonna do about it, and how big of a fight do you think it's gonna cause between them?
Yeah, I think we'll see a fight next episode, probably when they actually find where he is and they confront each other. Because at this point, tensions are boiling even more so. And like, they're both desperate at this point. You can see US Agent is very desperate. You can see some of the little cracks leaking through his facade where he's definitely early on. He was pretty aggressive this episode. In this part, he's also pretty aggressive. The whole any means necessary thing. I really think that we're gonna see maybe him fighting Falcon, Winter Soldier, maybe even a three-way fight. We got Zemo in there. We'll see like a whole bunch of different moral compasses clash. I definitely think we'll probably see that next episode.
Do you think that they will fight before or after the power broker gets involved? Because we don't actually see before. Mm-hmm. We don't actually see the superhuman version of John Walker here at all in this series as of yet.
Yeah.
True, not yet, but we'll see how well it works. I know that like Bucky wants to take the shield. He mentions that earlier in the airplane scene, so I think the fight is coming.
Yeah, that actually is coming up. We have another little airplane sequence where they're talking about what do they do next. Their next lead, some refugee, turns out to be dead, so they can't really use her. So instead, they decide to go to Latvia, which looks alarmingly like the town that Corpus Glaive stabbed Vision in Infinity War in. I mean, I don't know if they're just reusing the same sets or if this is actually like a relevant spot that they're going back to for actually like in canon lore. But yeah, we see them going back, and basically they talk and more about the nature of superheroes, and I guess how Bucky himself, who said, well, I'll take the shield before I let you destroy it, and all that fun stuff right there. So, I mean, it doesn't really set us up with too much more. I mean, we see the Flag Smashers also basically acting on what they said earlier, where they were going to raid the depot and take all the supplies, but then in the very end, Carly blows them all up, which kind of shocks her buddy, who's like, well, you didn't even have to do that. There were still people in there. Do you think there's going to be some type of infighting in this group? Because in the comics, correct me if I'm wrong, little Bobby, doesn't one of the Flag Smashers actually end up working with the good guys? Or how does that play out?
Yeah, I think the Flag Smasher in the original comics did end up changing sides and realizing like, oh, you know what? I'm not doing the right thing. We may end up seeing that and seeing this schism between Carly and whoever her friend is. I don't remember if they gave his name. But we do clearly see like there's a huge kind of rift that's going to develop between her kind of having that by any means necessary attitude and his like we're just trying to help people. We're not trying to hurt people. We're just trying to help people. If we absolutely have to hurt people, because they're attacking us or something, we will. In that case, they had everything they needed, and she still decided, hey, you know what? We're going to blow this place up to send a message. Kind of throwing that, like, I don't know, that, like, Joker, from a Dark Knight attitude in there, But it really is, I think, going to develop into a big thing where I think he may end up switching sides and helping out, the good guy squad, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And if it's not Carly, maybe it's the other guy who was much more shocked at her actions. I don't know how far she'll end up going before she cracks, but
or what if we see like a division,
it really moves on
like within the Flag Smashers?
Yeah, where their group splits, because from the trailers, we knew Zemo was going to get out of jail. Obviously, we saw him. Now, they've got these 12 super soldier serums. We don't know what's going to happen to those. We don't even know who the power broker is yet. But in the final sequence here, it introduces yet another faction in play. We see Zemo and Sam basically proceed to go to their next point of interest, the next person they need to talk to for information. And you see the Winter Soldier basically be like, I'm going to take a walk. Why don't you guys go in without me? I'll catch up to you in a second. And you see he finds the Wakandan marbles. And that basically leads him to an alleyway where he meets up with a Wakandan assassin, I'm assuming. Or, some type of bounty hunter. And she is basically like, I'm here for Zemo. And, again, another faction in play. So I guess we could go with Asdi here. What are your thoughts on this last minute introduction, and how do you think this is going to muddy the waters, though?
I think this is going to be crazy because we can obviously that Bucky, he enjoyed his time in Wakanda, right? They gave him that forgiveness, like he had peace there. He even said that in the first episode that he had peace in Wakanda. And a part of me like maybe feels like he kind of like grew that bond with like everyone in Wakanda, and he even like mentions to Sam that he is known like as the White Wolf, like that is his nickname over there, right? And that's actually a prominent character in the comics as well, who's like the adopted brother of T'Challa. So I'm kind of curious to see is he going to take on that mantle now, especially maybe like he's going to have, because I am sure like he's going to want to help the Wakandans, or at least help them understand at the very least,
Yeah, do you, Little Bobby or Waffles, do you think that they're going to go along with his plan where he says, like, hey, just keep your eyes on him, but I need him to find, this greater evil? Do you think they're going to go along with that, or do you think this is going to cause more problems for the main cast?
I could see them going along with it. I think that it'll add up to something later on, but I think for now, it's just they'll let it play out.
Yeah, because this Wakandan assassin, obviously we're almost here waiting for them. So it seems like having the Wakandan people on their side to help keep track of Zemo in case he lose. Because this whole episode, I was waiting for that moment where there was some type of chaos and Zemo could like escape and get away from Sam and Bucky, right?
Yeah.
And there was almost that moment, at the end where he's blowing up the canisters and the shipping containers blowing up and he's wearing the purple mask, where I thought it was going to happen then. But then he, takes the mask off, shows up in the car. He's like, all right, let's get out of here. On to the next spot. So either he's using them for some, means, because obviously he doesn't see Sam and Bucky as teammate, right? He's using them for his own ends, so that he can, get done what he needs to get done. So having these Wakandans here to help keep tabs on him might be very, very helpful. Mm-hmm. And it could set up a pretty big, final battle sequence between like the Power Broker and Zemo and John Walker and Battlestar and, Sam and the Winter Soldier. So there could be like a 4 or 5 way battle going on here at the end. And I'm kind of all for it, but any other closing thoughts you guys would like to throw out there? Because this is basically where the episode concludes, and we have that very artistic pre-credit sequence here. But, anything else?
I do have to say that I'm a little worried. Like, you mentioning all the factions, like, yeah, I think I definitely would be down for it, and I have no doubt in my mind that the MCU would be able to pull it off, but it feels like a lot. We have like a lot of factions really going at it right now, so I'm worried how they're gonna tie it all together for the next 3 episodes, because it's like the tensions are rising, and we're getting really close to like that climax.
Yeah, I want a Hobbit like Battle of the 5 Armies, just all of them going ahead, or like like Anchorman, where all the news stations fight. That's what I want to see.
Okay, I'm down for that.
Literally, like an action movie battle royale.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh well, I guess if nobody else has too many closing thoughts, I mean, we've gone on for about an hour here. Like, it's very easy to talk about these shows, even though this one's rather linear. There's just so much happening and so many references, and they're actually very well done. Again, like, my closing thoughts are just all the effects, the action set pieces. Everything about this was very visually pleasing. I loved the Madripoor area, and like you said, all the aesthetics there, like the cyberpunk situation going on. Like, very, very impressive, although it can have a tendency to move a little bit quickly, because even though it's essentially like a 6-hour-long movie, they're trying to cover a lot of ground in the comics to kind of get everything to whatever launching points they need for the next movies to take over, I would assume. But I guess any other final closing thoughts about the series so far? We're at the halfway point now, so if you have any predictions or any things that you'd like to mention, it'd be a great closing little finale here.
I just want to know how Carly found out the doctor died.
Yeah.
That's my only concern. That felt like a plot hole.
Yeah, that is true. That's among other things, like how did Sharon find out within like 5 minutes who the other doctor was, and how did they find out that he's dead? And yeah, I think there's a lot of things happening just to move the plot forward quickly, which leaves room for maybe a little bit of plot holes. But
Shit.
what about you, Azdeek or Bobby? What are your 50% thoughts on the series so far?
Right now, I kind of just something I wanted to add in there is that Sharon Carter is kind of giving me a little bit of Misty Knight vibes there. I'm not gonna lie, and Misty Knight has a pretty good relationship with Falcon in the comics, so it kind of felt a little bit. I don't know, like maybe this is just me just like thinking out. I don't know, but I kind of feel like maybe Sharon and Sam might develop a little bit of a relationship. You could see that everything that Sharon was going through was really, really affecting Sam there at the end. Like, he felt really guilty about all the stuff that she had went through.
Yeah, and he's like, promising to get her, a pardon, just like he's promising his sister that he's going to help with the boat and figure that all out. And it seems like he's definitely there to help people, even though he may be spread a little bit thin, that's for sure.
I just want more Bucky and Sam arguing like teenage brothers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's been their whole dynamic, like the whole series so far. And even when they were doing the big fight scene with like after the doctor, Zemo killed the doctor and they're trying to fight their way out. And Sam goes, I'm going this way. And Bucky goes, no, this way. They just go their separate ways and they meet up and start bickering with each other while they're firing at everybody.
Yeah.
That's what I need more of. That's all, and I'm good.
That was like a callback to two things at once. It was like, not only was it the on your left, because Falcon or Sam was like, Bucky was like, why didn't you go left or whatever?
Yeah.
But then it's also like, oh man, it's such a good material right there. Just all the callbacks, like the on your left, and then you have also him coming back during Endgame and all that stuff. So I'm really enjoying it. I like the direction that it's going. 50% thoughts, or I'm just excited for more of it to come out. Again,
Me too.
It's very, very easy to
Yeah, I
follow,
agree.
and I really want to see, specifically, I want to see how John Walker deals with the whole being Cap thing and how he ends up losing it. I think that's the thing I'm most excited to see, is just how Falcon gets the title himself. So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
yeah, that's because whatever he appears in next, that's where he's going to be, Captain America Falcon. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited for, his growth to that point, and then the next step for him onwards. And the Winter Soldier too. I really like Sebastian Shaw playing Bucky. He's a really good actor.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think we've rambled on long enough. We've got about an hour's worth of footage here for like almost an hour-long episode. So hopefully all of you guys in the audience have been enjoying Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing to the 5-9 Gaming channel so we can see you again for all of our updates on all things video games and Marvel. Come out with plenty of content every day. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving it a thumbs up, help spread it out there so hopefully more people can get a set of eyes on it. And leave a comment down below. Who do you think the power broker is? You think Sharon has a chance of maybe actually being the power broker? And ultimately, where do you see the conflict going here with all the different factions? Like, we'd love to know your thoughts down below. I guess for myself, for Azdeek, for Little Bobby, and for Waffles, this is 5-9 Gaming signing off. Feel free to say bye, everybody.
Later, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
I will.
Yeah.
Gotta take it up like this, y'all.